Ah, Napoleonic France, a world of polished boots, glittering medals, and powdered salons, a world where men talked of honor and empire, and whispered of things far less noble behind closed doors. Before we march into this scandal, tap that subscribe button, because once you hear what happened in the Emperor's France, you'll never look at a ballroom the same way again. Let's begin in Paris, the city of light, perfume, and secrets. While Napoleon waged war across Europe, his courtiers were busy conquering bedrooms. Aristocrats threw masked balls where no one came to dance. Women in silk gowns traded glances with officers still smelling of gunpowder. And when the orchestra stopped, so did all pretense of decency. In the candlelit corners of the Palais Royal, lovers met under painted ceilings. The same generals who spoke of glory on the battlefield competed for mistresses back home. And these weren't mere flings, they were political weapons. A single night with the right woman could mean a promotion or a scandal that could end a career. But the soldiers, the soldiers, had their own code. When the army marched, so did temptation. Camps were filled with women called vivandières, part nurse, part lover, part shadow of war. They cooked, carried, comforted, and in return shared the only warmth the soldiers could find. Some called it survival, others called it sin. Either way, it was the empire's most whispered secret. Even Napoleon himself wasn't immune to passion. He wrote letters to Josephine that burned hotter than any cannon. He begged, he scolded, he obsessed, all while she entertained admirers in his absence. Their love was fire and ash. One moment, adoration, the next, betrayal. When she didn't answer his letters, he wrote again, "Do not bathe, I am coming home." That line became infamous, a glimpse into a mind that conquered Europe but could not conquer desire. Meanwhile, high society had its own theater of lust. Madames hosted salons filled with art, gossip, and hidden games. Men recited poetry with one hand on a wine glass and the other tracing secrets beneath the table. Women used fans to send coded messages, a flick to invite, a flutter to decline. Every gesture was loaded, every look dangerous. But the real filth lay in the masquerades. Imagine a ballroom glowing with chandeliers, faces hidden by velvet masks. A general might dance with a duchess, not knowing she was his rival's wife. And when the night grew late, masks slipped, vows broke, and reputations fell like dominoes. By dawn, they returned to their carriages, pretending it was just a dance. Outside Paris, the provinces followed suit. In the countryside estates, bored noblewomen turned their drawing rooms into private theaters. Invitations read like riddles. Come dressed as your desire. Behind curtains, the elite played at myths. Venus, Mars, Diana. Each scene a fantasy made flesh. But beneath the luxury, something darker stirred. As the wars dragged on, thousands of widows flooded the cities. Lonely, desperate, forgotten, they found ways to survive. Brothels multiplied. The government pretended not to see. As long as soldiers were satisfied, the empire stayed quiet. Doctors even inspected these houses, claiming to protect public health. In truth, it was control. The same iron hand Napoleon used on the battlefield, now gripping the body itself. By 1810, France looked polished on the surface, but beneath the lace and medals was a society drunk on its own pleasures. People preached virtue by day and lived temptation by night. And when the emperor crowned himself with the Pope watching, half the court whispered, "He may have conquered Rome, but he'll never conquer the bedchamber." In the empire of discipline, The most dangerous rebellion wasn't political, it was passion itself. France, 1810. The empire stands tall, armies march, cannons roar, and yet, behind the marble halls of the Tuileries, another war rages, a war fought not with swords, but with whispers, perfume, and forbidden touch. Because in Napoleon's France, lust wasn't just pleasure, it was currency. Aristocrats traded lovers like diplomats traded treaties, and the closer you got to the throne, the more dangerous the game became. Every affair had consequences, some romantic, some deadly. Take Pauline Bonaparte, Napoleon's own sister. She was the scandal of Europe, beautiful, wild, and absolutely fearless. She posed nude for sculptors, bathed in milk, and laughed at gossip. Her bed, they said, was the true seat of diplomacy. Princes came to flirt, soldiers came to worship, and she welcomed them all with a smirk that said, "Who dares judge me?" But it wasn't just the nobility. Paris itself was a playground. Brothels disguised as fashion houses, courtesans dressed like queens, and a booming underground scene where anything and anyone could be bought. There was even a place near Montmartre where women wore soldiers' uniforms and men dressed as maids. An upside-down world of laughter, silk, and shame. The police knew, the priests knew, but as long as the taxes were paid and the curtains stayed drawn, no one complained. Now imagine the soldiers returning from Spain or Egypt, hardened, restless, unholy. They brought with them tales of harems, dancers, and foreign temptations. Suddenly, Parisian lovers tried to imitate the East. Perfumed rooms, golden lamps, belly veils, and slow dances that made the walls sweat. Exotic? Yes. Moral? Absolutely not. Even Napoleon noticed. He once complained that Paris had become a city of perfume and decay. But his words meant nothing, because he too was part of it. When he divorced Josephine, it wasn't just politics. He blamed her infidelities, but everyone whispered that the emperor's own conquests were far from military. From actresses to duchesses, his shadow lingered in 100 bedrooms, and each lover carried a secret that could ruin him. By 1812, gossip had become a weapon sharper than any saber. Pamphlets circulated in secret, mocking noblemen for their nightly defeats. Anonymous letters accused ministers' wives of sins too bold to print. Even the church joined in. Priests preached against the moral rot of the empire, while confessing to the same pleasures in private. And what of the common people? They followed suit. The cabarets grew bolder. Public dances turned into wild affairs. Behind tavern doors, laughter turned to moans, and even the lamplighters pretended not to hear. One police report from 1813 described a house of mirrors, a place where masked guests entered, chose a partner, and let the reflections watch what decency would not. The report ended with just one line: "Society has lost its shame, but not its appetite." Meanwhile, the doctors of Paris, those men of science, began studying passion like a disease. They dissected desire, categorized perversion, and published secret manuals for the elite. But let's be honest, those studies were just excuses to write fantasies in Latin. Even medicine couldn't resist temptation. When war began to crumble Napoleon's empire, France's passions didn't fade, they exploded. Defeated generals drowned their pride in courtesans' arms, Widows opened secret salons serving tea with a side of temptation. Even nuns in convents were rumored to keep love letters tucked between hymn books. And when Napoleon fell in 1815, Paris erupted, not just in mourning, but in freedom. The moral walls came crashing down. Newspapers printed stories of hidden affairs, artists painted forbidden scenes, and the empire of pleasure outlived the empire of power. By the time the dust settled, one truth was clear. Napoleonic France may have ruled Europe with an iron fist, but it was ruled at home by silk hands and secret hearts. They wrote history with blood and battles, but they lived it with desire. And in the end, passion was the only revolution that truly won.